What is up, everybody? Let me see if I got everything set up good here. Hope y'all are having a great day. Starting a little late today because I actually had to go pick up a new stationary bike as I was talking about in the chat. So that's what I was doing with my afternoon. And a big reason is, today it was, how hot was it today in Central California? I think 109. Which is pretty hot for May for us. You know, we don't usually get 109 till like July. Which is also funny is we had rain just a couple days ago and it was like 60. So kind of extreme yo-yo weather here, but it's really not safe to exercise outside here when it gets really hot. And there's actually a couple reasons. It's actually not just the heat, but it's also the fact that what always goes with the heat in these high pressure systems is pollution. We live in an agricultural area, and because we live in an ag area, the pollution can get really extreme during the summer. So it's one of the things, if you may hear it sometimes about LA, like if you're watching the national news, LA will hit these like peak pollution levels that are just really unhealthy. Like in downtown LA. Downtown LA is like in this little basin, and it's just a place where lots of cars drive through, and you end up with a bunch of smog during certain points. But for the Central Valley in California, we have a bunch of air pollution that is bad for you in different ways. It's full of particulate matter like soot and dust in particular because of all the agriculture. When they start shaking off the almonds in the fall, you can't breathe. It's so dusty out here. And when it gets hot, all of that, there's no air movement and stuff. All that stuff tends to get kind of pressed down and it's all at ground level. So in order to go running, and that's my preferred cardio is really just to go running. To go running, I have to get like a bandana and get it wet or have a mask. Now everybody has masks, so I'll just go run around with a mask on. But that's not very pleasant, and it's really hard to stay cool in that kind of heat. You have to, maybe soak your t-shirt or whatever before you go. So that's what I did today. I went and got an exercise bike, also for my wife because she wants to be able to find time to do more exercise for her, more cardio in particular. And so I went ahead and got that, and that's what I was doing. So I'll plan to use that a little bit when it gets hot here. The benefits of like a stationary bike, like an indoor bike or a treadmill, is that you can engage in stuff that you normally can't do when you're out running. And there's actually two sides to this. So, you can watch TV while you use your stationary exercise bike or whatever, or you can watch YouTube videos. I know some people are listening to me while they exercise, which is great. I like to listen to audiobooks a lot of times when I'm doing this kind of cardio. But one of the things that I really enjoy when I go out and run, I like to listen to music. And it's actually, 30 or 40 minutes where I really get to just focus on my body and music and really, I guess, be more alone with my thoughts. We tend to just have a lot of inputs in our modern life. There's inputs, like the information's kind of shooting into your eyes all the time, and it gets to be kind of maximum overload. There we go. You just get overloaded with information. So sometimes it's good to take a break from that and unwind and not have a bunch of things that you have to think about. But, on your exercise bike, you could read a book. I could read more books. I wanted to do some content on this comic because I was talking about zombies recently. And this is a really interesting one that I'll hopefully take a look at in the coming weeks if you've never read Crossed. It's zombies taken to like 11. It's zombies up to 11, which is actually, I think, pretty fun. I think it's pretty fun to have zombies go to 11. So we'll take a look at that one. Well, you could sit down on your bike and kind of have this out on the little control panel and, read your pages and get something else done. But you're always giving something up because it's also good to have time alone with your thoughts to think about stuff. That time that I spend out running is time for me to unwind a little bit, check out of whatever I was doing in the day and focus on the next thing. I always exercise before I write. That's part of my process. So I go running and then I come back, maybe drink a protein shake if I've done a good workout, and then I will prepare to write, and then I'll write until it's late at night, and then I'll go play a video game or read a book before I go to sleep. I haven't been streaming Final Fantasy VII lately just because I've been having to stay up late with like the kid. My daughter's been waking up at like 12:30 at night. It's like, I'm awake, dada, let's go play. I'm like, okay, you're supposed to go to sleep. So I haven't been able to do that lately. She has a molar coming through or something. So anyway, so that's a big benefit to being able to exercise on something like a stationary bike. Now, I know lots of people, gyms are closed. I think I talked about this in another stream. I had my gym call me the other week and say, we're opening up on Wednesday. This was like last week. And I'm like, okay, the order is no one opening up, and everyone's just going to defy the order and nobody's going to do anything about it. Like, how do you enforce the only essential businesses? You have to have the police come down and do it. If the police don't want to do it, then they just aren't going to. They just maybe won't get around to it. This is one of those things about trying to do things top down in any kind of political system. It's like, you people at the bottom do what we tell you, and they're like, well, maybe we will, maybe we won't. In some ways, I think I've had somebody say this before that lived in the Eastern Bloc prior to the fall of communism. It was the corruption that let you be free. There's the fact that everybody at the bottom level was not really checked into the ideals of the party and didn't really care that much. They took bribes. If you wanted to be, more free, of course, it's more corrupt. But if they did what their superiors always ordered them to do, you wouldn't have any freedom at all. They'd be locking you up for walking around after curfew or something like that, whatever it happened to be. So it's an interesting thought that the friction between the bottom and the top in a political system is something that can actually benefit a lot of people at the bottom, is that the top can't exercise control over the enforcers towards the bottom. So yeah, if the police don't feel like enforcing that, then it's kind of a moot point. Like trying to keep churches closed. If I was a policeman, like, we need to go arrest these people who are opening a church, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. They have a First Amendment right to hold their church. Maybe the police are like, yeah, we'll get to it. Maybe they drop by and say, like, you really shouldn't be open, but we're going to leave now. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks after that. I recently bought a used Gazelle exercise machine at a thrift store. Oh, cool. Yeah, thrift stores have all kinds of this stuff because people buy this exercise equipment and they don't use it. It like sits on their back porch and like collects dust. And I know because that was basically my family at one point. Like my dad would buy, basically he bought like a whole jungle set up from like a gym, like to do pull downs and do everything. And he just didn't use it. And I was a kid and I didn't know how to use it. Nobody taught me how to work out. Even my dad, who was a bodybuilder, just wouldn't teach me anything. I loved my dad. I loved him a lot. But his idea of teaching me to fix a car was hold this flashlight right here so I could see. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, It's like, weren't you always working with your dad on the car? I'm like, he never taught me anything. He had me hold a flashlight. I had to learn how to fix cars off the internet and from my friends who were mechanics, and they had to learn by like paying someone to teach them. They had to go to school for that. Maximum Overlord does sound like a new Stephen King book, yeah, or like a maybe a Richard Bachman book, I used to walk often when I lived out in the country, but now I live in a not so good neighborhood where walking outside makes me feel anxious and claustrophobic. Yeah, I can feel that. Here's a little something I carry running because I don't want to like run around with guns or something, right? That seems a little bit extreme. And this was another thing too, is like I'd go running out in Vegas at night, and my wife, before she was my wife, she was my girlfriend, she's like, what if somebody like tries to mug you? I'm like, they're gonna have to catch me. I'm in better shape than they are. Good luck. Catch me if you can. This is a flashlight. This is like a 800 lumen flashlight. You can get 1,000 ones. You can get ones that are even brighter, but this one's really good, and it has 2 in it, so I think it gets up pretty high. Bright enough that, let's see if I can. That's how bright it is, If I shine it at the camera, it's just going to go white. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But you bring this and you just shine that in someone's eyes and they're blind. And then you can just do whatever you want. You can kick them in the nuts and run away if you want to, right? This is a very, very simple thing. It's totally legal in every country I could think of to carry a flashlight at night. Get a really bright one. They're cheap, $15 maybe. And then you can shine it in someone's eyes very quickly. This one even has like some different modes. I'll show this on our Theotokos back there. I think I have a. There we go. Roar! That's like for roadside emergencies. But both of them on, that's really bright. That is a bright flashlight. If that's in your eyes, you ain't seeing nothing. So you can carry that with you in case someone messes with me. We have train tracks kind of by my house. I live in a kind of out in the country. There's drifters that come through occasionally. I know they're not going to mess with me. They're like, hey, there's like a 220-pound dude running. Maybe we should harass him. Maybe he has money in his running shorts. They're not going to do anything to me. No one's going to do anything to me when I'm running, but just in case. My state's been opening up since the beginning of May, so there's not that many people defying lockdown orders as a result. Yeah, I live in California. It's the reality of that top down is not as secure as people are going to think. That's going to be a cool wake up. Been enjoying the daily trending videos. Hope they catch on. Yeah, I'm going to try it for a week, see if I can keep up with it and see if people like it. I had a couple people get upset about the NASA one because I was like, NASA couldn't predict the weather, but that's like all they've been doing for 9 years is try to predict the weather. That was the point of that. They're like, well, it's very complicated to send someone into space. I'm like, I know that. I know that there's a lot that goes into sending someone into space. And I know, yes, the weather can stop that. Of course, it's about, it's just mostly like a joke. And also to point out that, NASA working with private companies is the way that NASA got people to the moon, right? NASA being the organizational force that put all these things together and undertook the missions, with different companies making the hardware and contributing things. Texas Instruments, my grandfather helped build those computers. The computers that went to the moon had they had like no memory, like 0.00002 gigs of memory. The phone in your pocket is like a 10 orders of magnitude more powerful than what we used to go to the moon. That's crazy to think about. So yeah, I know that there's a lot that goes into that, but people tend to forget that. They didn't realize that NASA didn't design the lunar module or build it. This is one of the things where people are like, oh, they lost the technology. Not exactly. Now they did lose data tapes or tape over them, which points to a certain kind of human error that NASA is not immune to human error. Obviously, just because you have an advanced engineering program doesn't mean that humans aren't going to make errors. In fact, human errors have cost lives on space missions. But the main point I wanted to get there was just that we've had that before. And the reason we can't just go back to the moon is all the tools that were used by various companies to build a Saturn V rocket, we don't really have anymore. You can't just, here's the engineering, here's the plans for a Saturn V rocket. I guess we can build it. No, first you have to build all the machines, all the tools, make all the dies in order to make that rocket. You have years worth of infrastructure that builds up to do that. And in any complex economy, kind of like a pencil, nobody knows how to make a pencil. That's the parable of the pencil, very famous economic parable. You can't make a pencil because the pencil is made by too many different people in too many different places. You have to cut trees, you have to dig up graphite, you have to make steel, you have to make rubber. The rubber, it all comes from different industries in different places, using different machines that are made by different industries in different places. In order to cut down the tree, you have to have someone who makes a saw. In order to make the saw, you have somebody who has to dig up iron to make the saw. And then you have to have a tool maker who knows how to make the dies to make the saw. And, there's all this complex, interconnected economic activity required to make one item, which is then used to make another item. So if we don't have the tooling to make a Saturn V rocket, it's kind of hard. We have to start from scratch. We have to redesign the rocket. You have to design a new rocket, and you have to design new machines, new tools, new robots. All that other stuff has to be built up in order to get back to that place. So in other words, once we ended the moon program, it just kind of the space program kind of went into a limbo area where there wasn't the next mission. And so the next thing just never happened, NASA just ended up not really doing a whole lot. Thank you for the $10. Has been is now 89. I'm hoping that's your name. I appreciate that. I really do. Let's see what else. What are your thoughts on President Trump's decision to declare houses of worship essential? I think it's correct. But here's the thing, is that they never could have legally been closed down according to the Constitution because they are a religious institution. You cannot make a law prohibiting the free expression of religion, and that includes closing churches. It simply isn't constitutional. And the First Amendment is an incorporated right, which means it's a right that no part of government can violate. So incorporated rights in the Constitution are like ones where the Supreme Court has decided. Now, we don't know, some rights haven't been incorporated yet, which just means the Supreme Court hasn't decided that the right in question, or maybe the amendment in question, whatever part of the Constitution in question, hasn't yet had a Supreme Court decision that said that it applies not only to the federal government, but to all state governments and local governments, or how far down it goes. So with the First Amendment, your local government can't prohibit your free expression of religion. The mayor can't decide to close a church, for instance. That would be unconstitutional. So it's unconstitutional all the way up. This is different from something that, because you have this 10th Amendment kicking around, which most legal scholars I talk to and interact with, they think, the conclusion is the 10th Amendment is mostly just they pretend it's not there because it's just ignored constantly. 10th Amendment says all the other rights belong to the state, meaning the federal government can't do anything it's not specifically empowered to do through the Constitution. It does plenty of things it's not empowered to do through the Constitution. And people, the 10th Amendment is not a very strong place to make your legal argument, is what I hear. Anyway, so I think it'd be unconstitutional no matter what. And I personally, if I were an attorney at a church and I felt strongly about it, I might talk to my priest or whoever and say, hey, I happen to be an expert in this. Open back up and we will sue and we'll take it to the Supreme Court. The problem is that your rights are going to be violated all the way up until the Supreme Court says you can't violate them anymore. That's a big problem, when you think about it. So, and that would also require, like the police would have to obey the governor to say, we're going to shut down the church. The governor said to shut down the church and we're just following orders. Police may just ignore that, or not even, well, we didn't notice they were open. So what do you want us to do? You're not going to do anything. The daily trending videos are fun. It's just a fun little thing to do for 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. Haven't commented on them, but the trending videos are really cool. Interesting to see what's trending at number 1. Yeah, I just kind of like to look at that. Number 1 the other day was like a sneakers app. I'm like, this is dumb. Sometimes people on Twitter are talking about dumb stuff. As a Floridian, I'm proud of my governor for resisting calls for more draconian lockdown. It's also funny to think that the guy who lost was found drugged up with a gay hooker. That was close, yeah. It's always the reveals just how depraved politicians can get, and that they'll end up doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that the whole thing about lockdowns, right? The point of during the pandemic is to reduce the spread, and there's lots of things you can do that would reduce the spread that people can do voluntarily without the government coming in and being like, naughty toddlers, how dare you not do what is good for you. What are your thoughts on Elon Musk? So I like Elon Musk. I think he's a really interesting guy. I'm glad he exists, and I like his attitude. I like that he's rich enough that he can truly speak his mind. This is something that most of us don't have the option to do. We're not so rich that we can just say whatever we want online because there's consequences. People will mob us, we'll get fired, right? That's why anonymity on the internet, even though it causes some really big consequences, and this is actually something I meant to make some content on, even though it causes big consequences in asymmetry between people who are anonymous and those who aren't, being anonymous allows you to basically speak freely. We don't really have freedom of speech if somebody can call our employer and have us fired for saying wrong thing, right? We don't really have it. It's a social value that is pretty much gone at this point in life. So the anonymity is important. Now here's the flip side of that, and I did want to make some content on this. We had a Japanese wrestler. This is like pro wrestling, WWF kind of stuff. She died, I think, over the weekend, due to suicide, and what they think was contributing to that or provoked that, and this is not like a cause thing. There's more things that go into somebody committing suicide than bullies online, but that's what it was, is relentless negative criticism online. directed towards her. She plays a heel, which is like a bad guy in wrestling. And so it was just like really relentless stuff directed towards her in that direction. Now, right there, you have a strong asymmetry because people on the internet can say whatever they want if they're anonymous. They're reasonably anonymous without any negative social consequences. They can tell somebody to kill themselves or that they're, they can say whatever bad things they want. They can provoke whatever they want. As soon as you remove that anonymity, then there's consequences. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword because sometimes you don't want those consequences. Other times, people need to not be awful to other human beings, right? And it's better to be polite, but to have controversial opinions than to, just be out there telling someone to kill themselves. But there's an asymmetry there, which is the person hiding behind a sock puppet account suffers no negative consequences. The person who's not anonymous potentially has big negative consequences from saying certain things, saying really awful things to other people. Anyway, yeah, Elon Musk, interesting guy. I will say, though, that he does suffer from what a lot of smart people do suffer, maybe myself included, which is that you tend to, how should I put this? I should say a lot of intellectuals suffer from this. You tend to start to operate outside your area of expertise and your area of knowledge. And Elon's not terrible about that, but he does it sometimes. He does it because he says whatever he wants. So sometimes he comments on things that he, doesn't really have a great knowledge of. And he's assuming that things mean one thing when they actually mean another. I can't think of any too many examples off the top of my head, but he did it on the Joe Rogan show, like when I watched it, when he got in trouble for like smoking a joint or something on the show, which was dumb. That's a dumb thing. But I would... he's in general, he's a pretty smart guy, but that happens with a lot of guys. You see that with, I'm trying to think who did that recently. Steven Pinker. Steven Pinker just talks about stuff he doesn't know about all the time. Like, he doesn't even understand data. He's like, here's my data. Here's this data that people have gotten less violent. I'm like, I don't know what data you're looking at, but 100 million people killed by their own governments last century seems like a lot. Doesn't seem like we're getting less violent. It's like, oh, well, I flubbed the data to just talk about people in white suburban neighborhoods getting less violent. It's like, of course they're less violent. How would you argue with someone like Owen Benjamin about the moon thing? There's a couple lines. Like, the first one is, you have to ask. I mean, there's really no arguing because those people tend to get very hardened hearts about those kinds of things. But the grand conspiracy is a big one. So in order for a moon conspiracy to have worked, you'd have to have, around 100,000 people pull off the conspiracy, including my own grandfather. And so they definitely made computers. They definitely made the lunar module. They made all the stuff. They shot rockets into the air because we filmed it, That's a lot, that's a lot of effort for like a pony show, right? It would just have to be like all the obvious evidence isn't real. Like all the videos of all the different moon landings. And sometimes people narrow it down. They're like, well, the first one was fake and all the others weren't. Like, okay. Point is, like, we went to the moon. There's actually a reflector on the moon, I think. I think there's a reflector on the moon that they can use to test like the speed of light. Don't quote me on that though. I seem to remember that, but I haven't looked too deeply into it. Oscar Wilde had the following to say about anonymity. Man is at least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth. There's a truth to that, right? Because of the social consequences to speaking your mind. What are your thoughts on the announcement that the Snyder Cut of Justice League is getting released? I think it's a good thing. Do you think it means companies are starting to listen more to fans? I don't. I think it was an opportunity for HBO to just get a bunch of attention very quickly. It was purely a business thing, and it worked out for all sides. Pay us money for the rights. You get to release this. Everyone will watch. It enriches your side. We get money for it. We've already made all our money off of Justice League. Production company made their money off of Justice League at the box office and through video sales. At this point, Justice League's value is down towards the bottom. It's just whatever continuing video sales or enriching some streaming platform, that's all it's good for. So we might as well sell the rights to the Snyder Cut to HBO, make a little bit of extra money from it, and HBO gets something out of it too. So I think it's good for fans, and then you could finally see if the studio actually made it a bad movie, or if it was always a bad movie, or if it was a worse movie. My gut instinct watching Rogue One, and I'd like to see the director's cut of Rogue One, my gut instinct with Rogue One is that the studio ruined the movie. I know a lot of people like Rogue One, and the truth is, I think if we saw that director's cut, I think a lot of people who liked Rogue One would like the director's cut less. And this is because it was very obvious to me, all the stuff they added in, because it wasn't in the same cinema style at all. It was shot in totally different manners, and maybe we can go through it and I can show some of those scenes. There's these scenes with Darth Vader where they're shot in totally different angles from what was used in the rest of the movie, even visually different style, different tightness of the shot, meaning that the frames are different size, like the cameras are different in different proximity to the actors involved. They just look really different. And so they added in all this Darth Vader stuff because they felt like they needed something to go to fans, rather than having this original story with characters that weren't Darth Vader, that people didn't know. So I would love to see a director's cut of Rogue One. I bet you it would be a much better movie, a movie that I would like a lot more, because I could feel it when watching it. I'm like, man, they're adding in a bunch of really cringy fan fiction, and they're leaving stuff on the cutting room floor that's not good. I could tell. It's like economists and thank you for the $5, Kaku. It's like economists and psychologists arguing each other in observation of the problem. They can stretch the truth in their own logic, uncommon sense. Yeah, okay, so here's the joke. So this is a great comment. Here's the joke. Go to a mathematician. Or no, first you go to a clerk. You go to a regular person. Hey, is 1 + 1? What does 1 + 1 equal? They say 2. And you go to a mathematician. So what does 1 + 1 equal? And he says, well, it's 2. And I can show you that the only correct answer is 2. You go to a statistician. What's 1 + 1 equal? He goes, well, almost always it's 2. Mostly 2. Generally 2. That's what the statistician says. Generally it's 2. You go to the economist. He goes, hey, so what's 1 + 1 equal? And he looks around. He closes the blinds, turns off the lights. He comes over and says, what do you want it to equal? What do you want it to be? And that's economics in a lot of sense. It's how you can have socialist economists. Is the data is complex, and the formula that you use to interpret that data and try to make predictions is often opaque. And the parts of economics that have been settled are the analytical parts, which aren't that useful for prediction. And so economists, what they do when they get themselves into trouble is they start trying to turn tools that are used for analysis of different things and make them highly predictive. And as soon as you get that, you've probably seen them on the news, some economists saying, we're expecting Q3 to do this. They're always making some prediction that never really comes about. And I think of poor Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff has been predicting a collapse of the dollar now for like 10 years, and it hasn't come. And it could be that we're still waiting for it to happen. It could be that he knew that it's like, well, it's probably going to happen. So if I just say it, eventually it'll happen and I'll be right. Or it could be that like economists aren't as good at predicting things as they like to pretend to be. And this is just judging the whole thing. And it's depends what you want to do with the tools. And I'm remembering a quote, I think by Thomas Sowell. He goes, in one sense, we're all Keynesians. In another sense, none of us are Keynesians. Keynes had a bunch of tools that we use in economics, but none of us really believe the formulaic conclusions of John Maynard Keynes, that you can, the government could pick up the missing spending and make the velocity of money equal what it had before. It's like none of us really believe that, but we have these tools that are really useful for measuring economic output and trade and things like that, as long as you know what they do. So that's just stuff that I was thinking about. Funny joke. Weather all over the place here in Iowa, that's normal. Yeah, it rains and stops in hot, humid summers, Jared. Yeah, I know. I've been there in the summer in Oklahoma. Here it's like, the sweat's just kind of like a stream off your nose because it's so humid. Where I was born, Lufkin, Texas, it gets up to 100% humidity in the summer. 100% humidity, and it'll be in the 90s. Pleasant. So if you've ever been to Houston, that's the weather that you dealt with there. But I hear it's good for your skin. because it keeps you sweating all the time. It actually keeps your pores cleared out. The more you sweat, like your skin tends to clear up in the summer because you sweat more, not less. Your skin stays moister and your pores are cleared out because they're always, there's always sweat pulling them out, I guess, up to a point. Because if you're never taking a shower, then you're going to end up really gross and stinky. But where was I? I missed some stuff. Rise of the Karen. Hold on. Let me see here. Like most recently on Rogan and Ellen said, we will have human to mind communication in 10 years. Yes. That was exactly what I'm thinking of. PMAC. That's what I'm thinking of. So he started making all these things about the human brain and this and that. It's like, dude, we don't know how the brain of a worm works. You think in 10 years we're going to have like mind interfaces? No. Like the ability for us to comprehend how the brain works is very far removed from where we're at. That's something that I've learned, is that we know how a neuron works, but a brain is a complex system that is so many orders of magnitude above a neuron in complexity that we can't even really begin to understand how a brain works. Now we know, we could begin. We know that certain areas of the brain seem to control certain parts of our body. Like you could stick an electrode, a neurosurgeon, and this is a funny thing about neurosurgery, is that it's mostly like a developed practice. It's kind of done through trial and error, not what people think of as normal scientific, we're going to do some research, a peer-reviewed study. It's like, now they experiment. They're like, maybe if we do this, it'll work. Do you want us to try that? And the person's like, I got nothing to lose. Put those electrodes in my brain. And they try it, and they're like, we got rid of the tremor on this violin's hand by putting an electrode into the spot in his brain that controls his hand, and it worked. And it's like, well, how does that work? We're like, it disrupts the neurons from firing randomly. It's like, and it works. Like, I guess it works. We found what part of the brain moves his hand. It's like, but we don't really know how the hand gets moved, or how you consciously decide the hand is going to move in what way, or how I'm doing this, or how I could pick up a guitar and my brain will make music exist on it. There's so many different layers there that it's just beyond comprehension. So yeah, Elon was talking about that, like, you're a smart guy, but you're going into domains that you don't know about, and that the people in those domains don't even know about. The people in the domain think that there's going to be some way that they're going to communicate. They're like, we have a good grasp on the brain. It's like, we really don't. The brain is crazy to think about. Check out the video. Gym owner and U.S. Marine Corps veteran harassed and criminally charged by police chief in North Carolina. The officer is a complete control freak. Yeah, there's always a couple bad apples that get attracted to that. But I can say, because I know police and I live around them, most of these people that get demonized, and this is part of the problem with the big race war stuff that you get. It's like, another police officer hurts another black man. Cops bad. It's like, so police hurt this black man because the black man's group membership. That's the narrative. Therefore, this group called police are also all bad. These are people that are just trying to do their job. They want to go home to their family. They want to get a paycheck. They want to do their job well enough to earn a living and continue having that job. Same thing, like, you may not like the TSA people at the airport, but they're just doing a job, and I went to school with people that end up working in the TSA, and I don't like the TSA existing, but I don't hate the people that work in it. They're just trying to make a living, and there's not that many options, and if you have a good option, you're going to try to take it. Same thing with police. Police are generally normal people, and they're like normal people, and occasionally there's some bad people, but we don't ever hear truck driver gets out of his truck and beats another guy to death. Truck driver's bad. It always tends to be focused on police because we're aware of that constant threat of force that they have. It really is something that we pay attention to is police. But due to the way, the fact that information is not treated the same when it comes through filtering in the media, we tend to think cops are bad. Actually, we don't tend to think it, but that's the narrative. Cops bad. No. Maybe some are, a couple are, but that's true of any profession. There's teachers who molest kids. Teachers bad? Teachers bad because some teachers molest kids. We need to have a discussion about teachers molesting kids. I guarantee you there's a lot more teachers molesting kids than cops racistly murdering black people. A lot more. It has been said it would cost a lot more money to fake the moon landing than it would to put a man on the moon. That's not true. It wouldn't cost more money to fake the moon landing, for sure. Like it's billions to do space, whereas it's millions to shoot a movie. I heard they had, the conspiracy theorists think that like it was, who am I thinking of? Stanley Kubrick did it because he had the know-how, he had the technical know-how to get away with it. But I don't think so. Do you think parts of Cali should be absorbed by its surrounding states to reduce its size while preventing a new state getting more people in House and Senate? I think it'd be better if we split California up into 3 or 4 different states. New states. Because, I mean, if you don't want to increase the size of the Senate, I guess that'd be the solution. So the number of people in the House would stay the same, but what you'd increase is the number of people in the Senate. Now, the thing is, the reason that they don't want to split it up into states is that would actually dilute the Democratic power base a little bit. And maybe not, because if you split it up evenly, you'd probably end up with 4 Republican senators and 4 Democrat senators. So, I don't know. It'd be better if it's split up into multiple states. Then you wouldn't have people campaigning just towards 2 cities full of illegal immigrant voters and then capturing the entire state against the will of everybody else who works here. I think the strongest evidence for the moon landing is that Russians were monitoring it all like a hawk and would have called foul had they noticed the slightest suspicious thing. I've heard of that too. There's a channel here called, I think it's Shane Killian's channel, and he has a whole thing on like moon hoax stuff where he debunks a lot of the claims, like that it was sped up video, or it was slowed down video to make it look like we were in low gravity, and you see that like if you actually sped it up, they'd be like, they'd be moving very unnaturally. It's just as an example. Banter. If get Trump off Twitter is trending, I think it's fair to do keep Joe on mic, even to see how even the left reacts, try to gaslight and damage control. So I just saw something here that was like, someone thinks he like farted on stream, like really loudly. They're like, did he just poo-poo his pants on stream? Did he just, and they called it on stream. Did he just live poo-poo his pants? That would be funny. Old Joe here. Hold on. This can't be real.
So, what does a human cost or stop work on roads and bridges? So, what does a human...
Did you hear it? Here, let me see if I can show it to y'all. I don't know if this is real. This can't be real, right? I think this has to be a joke, because the fart is pretty subtle. Let's listen again.
Or stop work on roads and bridges. So, what does a human cost?
All right, let's do it one more time.
Or stop work on roads and bridges. So, what does the...
Let me turn it up a little bit more so you guys can hear really good.
Human cost programs, or stop work on roads and bridges. So, what does the human cost?
Governor Wolf's spokesman didn't immediately respond to a request for comment on the source of the sound. Reached for comment. A Biden aide told BuzzFeed News Only, "Glad you're putting resources into this important story." I mean, it's just a fart, People fart. It's just a funny moment. I don't think he pooped his pants. He probably... I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. Yeah, maybe he did. Rogue One director's cut would be awesome. It was supposed to be more of a war movie. Yeah, I think Vader was added in. Yeah, he was. People were like, I love that last scene where he's like, I'm like, that doesn't fit who he was in the original trilogy at all. It just doesn't. It's unnecessary. What do you think of the rise of Karen? Will she speak with all our managers? Are we all doomed? The Karen is a traditional morm, like a school morm. It's the nosy old lady. And in a village, she has a place, which is to keep other men and women in line by appealing to their spouses. And once you take her out of the tribe, then she just has to speak with the manager all the time and is a dick to everyone because she doesn't have an actual tribe. That's a normal, like, matriarchal position. Is there anything that's in Waylon Smithers' comment? No. I was wondering why you typed it with weird letters. He says he typed it with weird letters because he couldn't write it with normal letters. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, their algorithm is set up to like sort so much stuff. You never know what they're doing. Eco is like a religion. Everyone is sure they have the truth, but no one has found God. Yeah. Well, it's like a religion in that you have to constantly espouse the creed that like we're destroying the planet. It's really death cultist kind of stuff. It's like you're destroying the planet. The planet's going to die. Stop reproducing if you're white. People who believe in uploading a consciousness to a computer are just atheists who want to believe in an afterlife. Yeah, kind of, you're right. But also that would disprove the existence of a soul, right? So that's what they want. They don't believe in a soul, so it'd be nice if we were able to... They think all of our consciousness is material, and if it's material, then why can't we transfer it to a more permanent material state? I don't think we'll ever get there, and I don't really like that idea in general. I think once you transfer... and I'm a Christian, we're body and soul. Once you replace your essential humanity, it's not a person anymore. It's not human. You've made a copy of a human's consciousness, maybe, but it's not really human. Here's how much the race war stuff gets overblown. I can't link it, but there's a graph with the FBI compiled stats for murders in 2013. Yeah, totally. We don't need to get too deep in it. Everybody here knows what's up. Joe Biden is a dirty old man. I had to prove it. Some people also say Stanley Kubrick was trying to tell everyone he faked the moon landing in a lot of ways, such as Danny wearing an Apollo 11 sweatshirt. Our conspiracy theory that I used to think was kooky, but I've been starting to reconsider after looking more deeply into evidence, is NASA is hiding evidence of life on Mars. I don't know about that. That'd be interesting. I think that if they found life on Mars, like regular, any kind of like bacterial life or whatever, they'd be really excited to share it because that's more stuff, more stuff for them and towards their direction. Just like there's life out there. The Star Wars movies really stayed away from its samurai influence roots, and it really shows. Yeah, I think you could say that, but I think that's okay. Oh, that was econ, not eco. Yeah, econ. So yeah, economists, depending on what kind of economist you're talking to, will have almost like a religious belief in some of the things that they, say. But there's a lot of useful tools in economics. One of the things that we have to be aware of, monetary theory might be the best thing to come out of economics, as much as it's unpopular to think about. Recessions have big monetary things that go with them. I love your thought on the idea of masking the human enemies in Final Fantasy VII in order to not feel for them. They did that with Judge Dredd as well, but we're supposed to like him. Well, I think if you just remove the eyes, it dehumanizes him a lot. But with Judge Dredd, I don't have my glasses here. Like I have my Razor Fist mirrored aviators, which I'm sure I was wearing before him because I'm older than him, and I've been wearing them since the 90s. But anyway, put on your mirrored aviators, and there's a reason a lot of police wear them, is because it removes the ability of the person to see them as a person, and they appear more threatening and more intimidating. And while that may seem dystopian, you have to think from an authority perspective. You're really trying to get somebody in a position where they're going to be receptive to you asking to do things, which means you want them to be a little bit intimidated. I know that that's maybe not a good touchy-feely thing, but if I were law enforcement, certainly I'd want I'd want to look a little bit more intimidating for anyone that I was having to do contact with, right? You want them to be, not super comfortable with you. And certainly you don't want them to look at you and think that they're going to be able to beat you up or something like that. You want them to be on their heels a little bit. Anyway, so as soon as you do that, they become a little bit more intimidating. The whole point of Judge Dredd is that judges used to wear sunglasses so that no one could see their eyes, which meant that they couldn't really get a read on them. You can't really tell what that person's feeling or thinking because you're removing. There's so much information that gets communicated with the eyes, and you remove that, and suddenly the person is a whole lot less human. That's what it was. Judge Dredd is supposed to be intimidating and human and unreadable. And I actually used that in a book that's going to come out this year about basically a space paladin. Left, extraterrestrial bacteria exist. Life, also the left. Oh, it's just a clump of cells. She has no right to choose. How dare you, incels? Yeah. it's really not. Everything makes sense when you realize it's not supposed to be logically accurate. It's not supposed to all go together in a logical sense. These are piecemeal positions that really go with their overall belief in the death of individuals and the death of culture in particular. That, we should have one world culture. This is really what, the whole globalist thing, that's really what we're talking about. It's like, we want to get rid of the idea of separate nations having separate desires for their nations, separate people, separate religious beliefs. People like to get rid of religion. The death of culture, the death of self, in a sense. Abortion goes with that because it gets a woman to avoid having a family. Check out the video of Joe Biden saying those of European descent becoming minorities is a good thing. I haven't seen that, but I don't doubt that he would say something like that. We are the world minority, but why should we be a minority in our own homelands? That's the question. Why should you be a minority in your own homeland? Should the Chinese be a minority in their own homeland? Would it be good if the Chinese were a minority in their own homeland? Obviously, there's no logical thing. It's really just, it's good that whites are because whites are bad and whites are standing up to what we want, which is to destroy everything because we're death cultists. Theoretical physicists have experimentalists test their theories. How can we do the same for economic theory? That's the problem with economic theory is you can't really, you can experiment at the micro level. And so at the micro level, interesting things can exist. You can study World of Warcraft economics. You have a controlled system. And but you have this uncontrollable factor called people, and people do weird things sometimes. So you're really just looking at observation. It's entirely epidemiological. It's the same thing with testing. There's lots of things you can't test directly. You have to kind of do it off. Like you can't test whether people are happier with one leg or two by chopping legs off of people. You can only go to people who have one leg and see if they're equally happy to people who have two legs, right, in some situation. So it's not ethical to go around harming people. And that's what you'd have to do in order to test economic theory. We'll have one economy that will completely wreck by doing what we think will wreck it. And we'll have one economy that will improve by doing what we think will improve it. Well, it would really suck to be that person in that intentionally wrecked economy. So you can't really test it. Science is a heuristic process. To make claims about something untestable is dogmatic. Agnosticism is the only honorable path for a secular scientist. I don't know if I agree with that. I think no. I think you're missing something in the logical process there. To make claims about something untestable is dogmatic. I don't think so. Dogma doesn't arise from nothing. So dogma or orthodoxy, it means the straight path, and it means that you are inheriting it from what's before. So there's nothing untestable about doing your crops a certain way. We have dogma as far as how we farm things. These things are developed over hundreds of years, and then you get passed down. The same thing with the way we engage in cultural whatever. The way we engage with each other is dogmatic. That doesn't mean that it's untestable. Like those things don't necessarily go together. Just because something's untestable doesn't mean that you do it dogmatically. Or the fact that something is dogmatic doesn't mean it hasn't been tested. It's been tested in many cases over hundreds of years, many times before you arrive at the dogma. So in a church sense, we tend to import these words from theology. The dogma is the established way of doing things. There's nothing wrong with dogma. It's why we have apostolic descent. The apostles before have said this is the way it works. We are going to have always that starting place of this is the way it works. And honestly, real science works the same way. You're inheriting the state as it is, and then maybe you think you can tinker with it to change it. Very little science is done by the research process. And in fact, most research findings are false. You can go Google that and you'll find scholarly articles that will tell you that most published research findings are actually false. The peer review process is, depending on the area that you're looking at, is anywhere from hit or miss to just a complete scam. In areas like the arts, of course, it's a total scam. In areas like psychology, it's pretty much hit or miss. They don't replicate. In other words, the experiments don't replicate, the studies don't replicate, which means they aren't really true. So anyway, that's where I think that little piece of logic was missing. Is that I don't think just because something's dogmatic doesn't mean it hasn't been tested. If I'm going to reverse those things, or because something's untestable doesn't mean it's dogmatic. You inherit the dogma because it's just been proven to work. A NASA scientist who worked on the first Viking mission revealed that NASA explained away its positive life test results, then refused to put the proper instrumentation on every rover since. That's interesting. I haven't heard that. Yeah, even RoboCop had his upper half covered, and the entire arc of the first film was humanizing him. Yes, that's a great point, Eric. That's perfect. Towards the end of the film, he takes the helmet off. Remember, he gets damaged when they're shooting him, and then you see Murphy again. You see his face, and so it's about him recovering his humanity, which is great. That's a great theme to it. That's excellent. And then, of course, he's against the Ed 209, the fully robotic thing, the fully robotic robot that just kills people on a whim. That's his enemy. So yeah, that's a great observation. Joe Rogan isn't as smart as he thinks. I agree, but you know what? For his most part, Joe just kind of goes with what his guests are saying, and that's good for him. That's good for his show, because then it just kind of gets the guests on a roll talking about what they believe, and sometimes he says things that are counter. What do you say to people who say this? And then he does it. I think he's a great talk show host, actually. I know there's lots of people who don't like him, but I think he's very good at what he does. And there's a reason why his podcast is so popular. He has really interesting people on, and he has really good interactions with them. Thoughts on purchase limits? Ooh, I work in a supermarket. Don't think it solved the problem because you aren't really addressing supply to meet demand. So I think limited purchase. So I'm going to assume what you're talking about is like you go to the supermarket, only one loaf of bread per customer. So I had to deal with this where I had to go shopping for my in-laws who were older and also in very vulnerable groups when it comes to things like flu. And if they got sick, it could have, with COVID-19. And we had someone that worked at the grocery store get it recently over in Riverbank, the next town over. So they're closed for the next 2 weeks to have everybody tested and everything and see if they get sick. But, if they were to get the coronavirus, it could have very serious health consequences for them. So I went to go buy bread for them. Now, what's the problem? I'm in a special circumstance where I really need to buy extra food because I'm not buying it for me. I'm buying it for adults who can't go shopping for themselves because of their medical risk. Right? I'm trying to do something nice. So the question is, do I have to buy this bread for my family or for my in-laws? And what I ended up doing is one bread per person. I bought like the giantest loaf of bread and just gave half. It said I'll buy more next time, or next time I go by the grocery store. It's a pain. So the purchase limits, generally, they have the potential to do what they're supposed to, which is to stop people from buying more than they need in a given time. So if somebody goes by the grocery store and buys one loaf of bread per week, they should continue. Everybody does that. Everybody should continue doing that, and there would be no shortage. The problem is people panic, and I talked about this with the stampede mentality, and your only option is to get ahead of the stampede or get run over by it. So you go down to the store and you're like, well, I believe there will be no bread here next week when I come, so I need to buy 2 loaves. So the supermarket's trying to say, everybody buy 1 loaf and it's going to be fine. Now, I saw that work firsthand, is that it effectively worked. It stopped people from clearing out the bread aisle once they started doing that. Once the bread got back in stock, stopped people from clearing out the bread aisle. Once the bank run was over, if you will, then you lifted the restrictions. And you could do this exact same thing with a bank run. If there's a run on a bank, and we don't really get bank runs so much anymore because we have deposit insurance. And also, the Federal Reserve actually will just loan endless money to banks anyway. But back in the Great Depression, bank runs caused people to lose all kinds of money because of the magic of fractional reserve banking, where you deposit $10, the bank loans out $9 and keeps $1 in reserve. So if you come back for your $10, they're only going to have $1 of it. Now that works if most people are not coming back for their money, but if everybody tries to come back for their money, they won't have it. Then the bank has to call in their loans, and it causes a deflationary force where the total quantity of money can drop. And in fact, the total quantity of money dropped after the stock market crash in 1929. The economy had mostly recovered, but then you started getting these bank runs. Like, I firmly believe that FDR and the Democratic Congress created the Great Depression after it was almost resolved. But you get a bank run, you get a series of bank runs, and if the bank collapses, no one gets their money back except for the first people who got ahead of the bank run. So if you can say, hey, we're only going to give people 10% of what they have on deposit, people are like, that's crazy. I should be able to get my money back. It's like, come back next week and you can get another 10%. And if you slow it down like that, before you know it, the banking run is over. You slow down people grabbing their money enough that it's done. And I remember a story Milton Friedman told. I think this was on the Free to Choose program from like 1980, which is a program. You can look it up on YouTube. It's a good little PBS program about economics and free market. And he talks, this story was from a bank, I think in Utah or somewhere, and maybe Salt Lake City. And they were getting a bank run. And so the banker said, here's what we're going to do. He got up in front of it. Everybody is going to get their money. And he went to the tellers and he said, everybody that comes in, first you pay out their money in ones and fives. Ones and fives. So someone would come in for their money and they paid out all their money, but they paid it in ones and fives. Why ones and fives? Because it took longer to count it. It took so long to count the money out for the people trying to get their money out of the bank, that the bank was able to secure a loan within the next couple days of the bank run. And by the time they secured the loan, the bank run was over and people were depositing their money again. They felt confident that the bank was going to be around long enough that they could put their money in it. It's from a lack of confidence. So you aren't addressing the supply meets demand, but the supply meeting demand, Kaku, over the long term hasn't changed. We have the same amount of bread we need to eat, but people are pushing that demand forward to where it doesn't belong. They're saying, I want to buy 5 loaves of bread because I don't think you'll have bread tomorrow. I'm in the stampede. That's the problem. And so you say everybody's going to buy 1 like they normally do. There's people who are willing to get around that. And this is what I had to do because I was shopping for my old folks here. Buy bread on Monday, buy bread on Tuesday from a different store, or go to store A, buy bread, go to store B and buy bread. I have to go an extra stop to buy bread for my in-laws. But that's okay. You know, it's an inconvenience for me, but most people are not in that boat. Most people, they don't need, unless they have a giant Catholic family that needs like 3 loaves of bread a week. And it sucks for them, right? They have to eat rice or something for a week. And you're not going to get a perfect solution. But I witnessed it firsthand. After they did this, there was bread in the bread aisle. Not infinite bread, but there was bread in the bread aisle. The run was over. And once people were confident that bread was going to be there, now I go to the supermarket, there's no limit on bread, and there's bread in the bread aisle because people return back to their normal buying habits. And that's the whole point of that. If it's temporary, it can work. If it's permanent, then you're talking like draconian Soviet craziness. All right. My dad did that once outside a grocery store. He had his sunglasses on and was staring at this guy. The guy didn't know whether he was looking at him or not, and it freaked him out. Yep. I thought East-West Germany was a pretty close economic test. Boy, that's a good point. Or North and South Korea. Not just economic, but look at North Koreans are shorter than their South Korean counterparts because of malnutrition. That's how bad it is. Pretty big. Whoops. How does it feel to know we're probably going to see incest and pedo legalized and praised in our lifetimes? Having grown up in the 90s and seeing kids now being trans has made me give up. Don't get too black-pilled, because remember that they are not the majority and can't ever really be the majority, and our mission can never really fail. Like I said, this could be something that will provoke big localism. If the police just refuse to do what the governor says, you're really dealing with fractal localism. Once that becomes the status quo, then that kind of stuff doesn't matter as much. I don't know. I don't think we'll see pedophilia legalized. I think there's people who want that. But I don't think we'll see that legalized. Incest, maybe. But even then, I don't know. I think there is an attempt to normalize it by some parties, but I think the whole like trans kids thing, it's really beyond the pale. This is extreme deviant behavior. You can't have kids stripping for adults. That's disgusting. That's unacceptable in our society. The question is, what do you do about it? Well, first of all, you don't let them have access to broadcast that. But, I agree that it's going to be a problem. I think we'll have a pendulum swing back at some point here. While NASA claims that all the unusual objects seen in rover images are just pareidolia, when you look more deeply at the evidence, there are some instances where that is questionable. Yeah, pareidolia is where you see images in noise. Like if you look at a wood grain and maybe you see a face, that's pareidolia. It's your brain, it goes from us being hyper cautious individuals through evolution and stuff. Through all of our ancestral experiences, we've been selected to be very cautious, even paranoid. So if you're very paranoid about tigers and you see a tiger in the bush and you run away from it, but it turns out it's not a tiger, well, you've lived to see another day. The only problem is if you don't see the tiger and he's actually there. So we tend to be selected for a more paranoid response rather than a very even and accurate one. And that's pareidolia, seeing images and noise. Very cool. Very cool trick of the mind. My last comment about Joe Biden was not allowed to be posted in chat. When I rewrote it without the in the US, it allowed it to be posted. Interesting. Well, you're testing the algorithm right now. Did you know that Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. visited Elon Musk before making the first Iron Man movie? I did not know that. I didn't know they modeled Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark after Musk. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Elon even had a cameo in Iron Man 3 at the racetrack right before the Whiplash showed up. Cool. How much money can the Fed create before we have inflation issues? All this stimulus and the dollar is still strong. Seems to defy logic. Well, that's a good question. We already have inflation issues as far as I'm concerned. If we're talking hyperinflation is really rare. And in order to have hyperinflation, the Fed would have to be printing like 2 orders of magnitude more money than they're printing now, like 1,000 times more money. When you get hyperinflation where it becomes really a big problem, it's like $10 buys you a loaf of bread in the morning and buys you a piece of bread at night. How can you have that much inflation? It's like everything is being paid by the government through printing new money. And they already do that now, but it's not quite as extreme as you would see in a really extreme inflationary force. You know, how are you going to pay down the national debt? Well, you have to inflate your way out of it. There's really no other way to get out of it that I can think of. So you're going to have to print money to pay it down, which means that everybody gets poorer because our money will buy less stuff. But if you do it over time and you do it so that it's a moderate inflation, it has the potential to be not that painful. The only problem is that anytime there's inflationary forces, and we have them now, cash is bad. You know, holding cash, you want to spend your cash as soon as you can, because that's how you get the value out of it. People put their money in the stock market trying to preserve the value of it. If they felt like $10 would buy them the same amount 10 years from now, a lot of people would just keep it in the bank and just earn some interest on it. They wouldn't touch the stock market. We're in the stock market because that's the only way to counteract inflation. The bank won't pay you enough interest to offset inflation. And they tend to have very pronounced red cheeks because of their malnutrition. I'm guessing you're thinking of North Koreans, yeah. Ever heard the term pronoia, concept that there are hidden forces at work to help you? There are hidden forces at work. Angels. Maybe there's hidden forces against you, demons. I know many people that have had experiences visually seeing angels and demons. And they're not on drugs. They're not insane. So I think there's, you know, if you believe that the plural of anecdote is evidence, there's certainly evidence that there's more at play in our world than what is merely visible through the senses in the normal senses, in the normal times. I see patterns in mundane things all the time. Guess I'm paranoid. It just means that your ancestors were cautious, and that's good. Seeing patterns is not a bad thing at all. It's only a bad thing if it stops you from doing normal activity. That's when paranoia becomes like real clinical paranoia, where you can't like leave the house because you're so paranoid about somebody like spitting on you. or it's somebody coughing on you and you're getting, like, so many people are having major fear responses to the coronavirus. And maybe because I prepared so much ahead of time, I just don't have that. It just doesn't, it's not that scary to me. Have you ever seen Clash of the Titans? Both of them. Or Wrath of the Titans. And so what are your thoughts on them? I like the 1981 Clash of the Titans quite a bit. I think it's a very well-made movie. The special effects don't really hold up. I'm sorry they don't. The newer one has great special effects, but it just isn't as good a movie. It just doesn't, that one doesn't hold up because of the story, the way that they did it. Also, they had a main character, a Greek, who had a shaved head. Weird. And everybody else had like more classic Greek hairstyles, like long hair, you know. He didn't look Greek. Weird casting decision. Yeah, I just cashed a treasury bond, and funny that people think it's a good investment when after 25 years on a 500 bond, I made a profit of $50. I think I have a $100 bond somewhere, and when I cash in, I think I'll get 125. It's like a 30-year bond or something. It's like, come on. It's not. It's a way to try to avoid inflation, but you know, it doesn't really work. All right, guys. Let's see here. I'm starting to run out of time. I didn't even play a game today. Let's play a game for 20 minutes. What game to play? Last time we played Oblivion, and we could keep doing Oblivion. I wonder if there's anything else that's fun to play that I've got. Yeah, let's just do Oblivion. We'll have something fun to do in that. Beautiful music. Love it. You guys can see me a little better now. Music takes me back, guys. Takes me back. A Flash game. There's actually a really good Dragon Age Flash game, but it's kind of hard to play now. It's like a little miniature tactical RPG. It's pretty cool. I love that little intro. The little intro sound there is pretty cool too. I like it. Man, it's hot today. I want to turn my AC back on, but it's so noisy. I have a portable AC sitting next to me. But if I turn it on, like here, I'll turn it on. You guys can hear it. It's noisy. Oh, it feels so good though. Ooh. Ah. To get like a little bike, you know. Hello! Aviator is one of my favorite movies. I love planes. Yeah, Howard Hughes Company. Howard Hughes is a super interesting guy. I think it's a great movie too. I think Leonardo DiCaprio did a great job. Great job with that. You know, if you have like Amazon Music, you can tell it to just play Jeremy Soule.
And something worse in the rooms.
And
Gods, I don't even notice it.
there's some great stuff. You can just have a great time chilling out with that. All right, Martin.
Unless you need something that's the Wayne and Priory then.
Now you can actually use him as a follower. He's indestructible right now, so he actually makes a really good follower. And you can, I think you can actually reverse pickpocket some stuff into him that's enchanted, and you can do that. I think we could fast travel over to Wayne and Priory. Let's go. Have you seen any other Harryhausen movies? If so, what do you think of his work in general? Oh, you know what? I'm not prepared to answer. I have to think again.
You must help. They're killing everyone.
Oh,
at
they're
Wayne
killing
and
everyone
Priory.
at Wayne and Priory. Would you consider periodically reviewing small pieces of writing from subs, something like a page or two? Yes, but I'd have
I
to
don't know.
monetize that
I think they're
somehow,
right behind me.
because I have
Prior
so little time right now.
Madrigal is dead.
Yeah, we could probably do that. I could maybe do it as like a Patreon perk. Like if somebody's on the Patreon, I might restart the Patreon. I'll kind of come to my senses about most things, but you know, or through subscribe stars, like a perk, you know. For this much, I'll critique your prose and give out editing tips. You can be part of the masterclass or something. Thanks for keeping me company while I calculate gun elevation and shell drift for work. That's awesome.
I was in the sheepfold when they attacked. I heard the prior talking to someone.
Christopher Nolan
Looked
wants to
around
make
the
a Howard
corner to
Hughes
see who it
biopic,
was.
but when Scorsese
They
made
looked
The
like
Aviator, he put it on
travelers,
hold and did
ordinary.
Batman Begins instead.
Suddenly, weapons appeared in their hands, and they cut the prior down before he could move. They saw me watching.
You can actually
and I
see.
ran.
There's a bad guy right there. See him? Where's Joffrey?
I don't know. In the chapel, praying, I think. You must help us.
Don't worry, bro. I'm gonna help you right now. Come on, Martin, help me out.
Show me what you The dawn is breaking. Watch out! There may be more of them!
My baby is not happy.
Stop right there, criminal!
Ah!
Nobody breaks the...
What am I... Did I hit somebody? I think I'm gonna resist arrest here.
Then pay... Take that!
Martin's gonna help me out here. The Coral Constable saw me do something not good.
Die, girl! You'll never take me down.
I'm gonna kill this guy. Oh, someone else is attacking me. Oh, there's another one. Oh, it's a bad guy. Oh no, it's two constables.
Sure, just warming up, you perverse worm!
Martin, help me!
I fought mud crabs more handsome than you.
Oh, I'm gonna die. Yeah, chuck some pots. I don't know why these guys are mad at me. Strong potion of healing. There we go. All right, killed that one. I don't know what I did to get this bounty. Got like accidentally hit someone. Is Martin attacking me now?
Die! Feeding time is over, vampire. Go back to the grave that spawned.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Take that!
How did this happen? Try to kill this constable.
Feeding time is over, vamp.
Almost got him dead. Oh, he killed me. Did he kill me? Oh, he did. Would you consider playing Mass Effect in the future? Yeah, I've played them all. I need to talk more about them. Alright. Did these guys like, did I already, let me check something here. Like, do I already have a bounty somehow? I have a thousand gold bounty, but what the heck from? I don't know what I got 1,000 gold bounty from.
You should. No, stay.
So apparently I do have 1,000 gold bounty, which means I probably need to find a way to pay that off. This is rather annoying. What are your thoughts on Meatloaf, the singer? I'm not a huge fan of his music, but it's okay. Quickly run over and see if I can find Armin Kristoff. Over here. Oh no, not Tintin the guard.
Ah, our newest pickpocket.
You need to feed. I don't want to feed.
You can pay your fines to the guards.
I'll pay off my fines.
Consider it done. I will get rid of
I don't know
all
what I
your
did to get the
criminal
fine,
warrants.
so...
Shadow hide you.
Maybe I can just sneak into a house real quick and... Or... I mean, this is... Here, I'll feed. Alright. Alright, now let's go to Wayne and Priory. You cannot fast travel where guards are pursuing you.
Ah. You can pay.
I have a 20 gold.
Consider it.
I guess somebody saw me drinking blood.
Shadow hide you.
Where am I getting this bounty from?
You can pay your. It's your. Shadow hide you.
Are they still pursuing me? Uh-oh.
There's evil afoot, citizen, and I've little time for chatter. What is it?
Directions.
What are you looking?
Tell me about the guilds.
There are no guild halls in the city, but
What are
the
your thoughts on
Arcane
Nikola
University
Tesla?
is on an island
Smart
outside
guy.
the walls.
I probably don't know
south of
much
the
about him
Arboretum.
like in a biographical sense. Thoughts on Meshuggah? I'm not a fan of Meshuggah. I find their music really boring, personally, but other people like it. That's okay.
Farewell.
I find it incredibly monotonous. I can't really stand it, actually. But whatever. Martin reported me to the guards. You little swit. And then it crashed. That's an oblivion moment. That's an oblivion moment right there, is when it crashes. Despite being 2% of the population, vampires make up 40% of billionaires. Let's see where it continues from. Yeah, I love the bugs in Oblivion, personally. I think they're really fun.
Ah. You can pay your. It's your prison.
Okay.
Shadow hide you.
All right. There we go. Off to Wayne and Priory. I wish I had a PS4. I want to play Order 1886. I don't think... I think it wasn't that good, so...
Help! You...
All right.
I... Looked up...
Gotcha. Where's Joffrey? Now let's kill these guys.
I think we should find your friend Joffrey at once.
Okay.
I'm with...
See what they got on him. Bread loaf! Taking that loaf of bread. Some gold. I love there's a part in the game where like a bunch of the NPCs just turn into these guys. And you have to kill them. Like Elsie God's Hater will just like turn into... just turn into one of these guys and attack you.
I do not.
I do not fear death.
You're back. Thank Talos.
Thank Talos.
They attacked without warning. I was praying
Yeah,
in the
Bethesda's
chapel when I heard
ambitions with
triumph
rating
for
AI
Osam.
turned out to be a
I
glitchy
had just
blessing.
time
I like
to
the
arm
glitchiness
myself.
of
The
Bethesda
Amulet
games.
of
I actually
Kings.
do like that.
I fear that was the target of this attack. I kept it in a secret room in Waynon House.
Just a little bit.
We need to go see if it is safe.
Okay. I'll go check on the
We'll go
amulet.
together. But I fear the worst.
Man, I just love this music. It's like some of my favorite music ever. And there's just something about like the music with the colors and that full screen glow effect from the late 2000s. Well, here I am on top. Don't need to be on top of the church. Who died? Who died here? Prior Maberel died. I might as well take his black robe, his gold ring, and his gold. He's not going to need them now. He won't need them in the afterlife.
Poor Prior Maberel. He was dead when I came outside. Who could have done this?
What is some metal music that you would recommend to someone who mostly likes melodic symphonic music and likes music loud and rousing, but not noisy? I would say,
Take care.
well, obviously Rhapsody, if you've never listened to Rhapsody. Orion's Reign, that's a Greek symphonic metal band. Of course, Twilight Force. Who else? Blind Guardian. I love Blind Guardian quite a bit.
They've taken it. The Amulet of Kings is gone.
Those
the
are all
enemy
good ones.
has defeated us at every turn.
Man of War, of course.
So it has not all gone against
Orion's
us.
Reign is
Thank
really
Thomas
over the
for
top.
that.
If you listen to one,
We
there's a
gained
really good album
Uriel's
called
heir
Scores
and
of
lost
War.
The Amulet of Kings.
Me and my son have been listening to that
Martin
one a lot
cannot stay
lately.
here. We have driven them off, but they will be back once they learn of Martin's survival, which they will. Nowhere is truly safe against the power arrayed against us, but we must play for time, at least. Cloud Ruler
Secret
Temple,
room is behind a door.
the hidden fortress of the Blades in the mountains near Bruma. A few men can hold it against an army. We should leave at once.
All right, let's go.
With the amulet taken by the enemy, we must get Martin to safety at Cloud Ruler Temple.
Yeah, Eric's right. If you get a PS5, if you don't have a PS4, I'd wait for the PS5. They'll make a bunch of games backward compatible, and they'll also put out like updated graphical versions. So there'll be, you know, Last of Us 2 Enhanced Edition, Skyrim Super Edition, whatever it's going to be.
The coronation of each new emperor is sealed when he uses the Amulet of Kings to light the dragon fire.
Dead Space game series. I liked the first one. I haven't played any
dragon
others.
fires of Akatos
But I think they
remain
killed the
lit
studio
until the
because
death
it
of the
wasn't
emperor.
making enough money.
His successor then
Which is
lights them
annoying.
anew upon ascending to the throne. With Emperor Uriel dead and no successor crowned, the Temple of the One will be dark for the first time in centuries.
Yeah, I might go Microsoft this next round. Not because I hate Sony necessarily, but I think the new Xbox is looking pretty good.
The Elder Council rules in the Emperor's absence by ancient tradition.
EA's
Councillor
gonna kill
Akate heads
BioWare.
the Elder
BioWare
Council
is just a
and
zombie
is the
at this
closest
point.
thing the Empire has to a leader right now. But the Blades answer only
I
to
kind of
the
want to get the
Emperor, of
Skyrim
course.
VR. I might
They are
get
not
like
an
Skyrim
arm of the
VR if I
government.
want to splurge on something. At some point here, just like I think that would be a really fun experience.
We should get moving. I won't rest easy until Martin is safe at Cloud Ruler Temple.
Oh, it's cool. There's like free gear in there. I gotta see if any of these guys died and I can like take their sword. If any of the monks died, I think you can steal their swords. I think those Akabiri katanas are pretty good. Were you ever a Mountain Blade guy? I played the original one years ago, and I liked it. But it's kind of dated now. Mountain Blade Warband was the other one. That one was pretty good. But I didn't really play it much because I didn't have friends who played it. If they come out with another one, I'd like to see it. All right. Let's see. Where's Cloud Ruler Temple? I guess I can fast travel there. I guess we'll just do that. Alright guys, look at this. We made this epic journey here. See, if this is Morrowind, you'd have to actually escort them and like kill like 100 goblins along the way. It'd be way more fun. I bet this game would be fun in VR too.
I've put myself in your hands.
As a blade, my Cloud Ruler it is
All right, we're here.
Stay safe.
It opened for us.
Yes, Cyrus. This is the Emperor's son, Martin Septim.
Good evening, sir.
My lord, welcome to Cloud Ruler Temple. We have not had the honor of an emperor's visit in many years.
What are your thoughts on Hank Williams Sr.?
The honor is mine.
I liked his music, but I haven't listened to it very much. What? Wait, you didn't see the ginormously hyped release of Mountain Blade 2? I didn't. I consume so little. I don't see ads. I just like don't see. I don't know if something's happening unless you guys tell me. I'm like so out of it. It's like every day I wake up, I do stuff with kids all day long, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go write books, or play games, and they're like, you heard of this new game coming up? I'm like, I haven't heard anything. I'll tell you what I've heard all day. I've heard these singing toys sing at me all day long. That's what I've heard.
Times are upon us. The Emperor and his sons were slain on our watch. The Empire is
Look at his face is totally glitching out. It's from a mod. It's not.
Here is Martin's
Thoughts on Amazon's Lord of the Rings? I have no interest in seeing it whatsoever. I don't believe that there will be any reason to watch it versus the movies or just reading books.
are at your command.
Would you rather watch a crappy adaptation of Tolkien, or would you rather just go read Lord of the Rings and just have a great time reading a great couple books?
Me to be emperor.
I would rather read the novels again, personally.
But this is all new to me. I'm not used to giving.
You know, I have no trouble visualizing Tolkien's
I
world.
want you to know that I appreciate your welcome here. I hope I prove.
Have you seen the trailer for the Lord of the Rings Gollum game? I have not. Why would they make a Gollum game?
Thank you.
You ever play Far Cry Blood Dragon? I love it.
Thank you, Martin.
It is perfect in every way. I love the tutorial where the tutorial's like, press this to jump, and he's like, ah! I loved it. I think it's the best. I think it's the best Far Cry game. I played at least the first 4, but I think Far Cry Blood Dragon by far is the best. It's most colorful, aesthetically it's the best gameplay. Just everything about it is great.
They want an emperor to tell them what to do, and I haven't the faintest idea.
How long does it take to acclimate to those kid toy songs? A buddy's toddler daughter song machine drove me insane after 2 hours at his house recently. I don't know. I think it's like getting, you know,
Of course.
I think it's like any immunity. You just start to tune it out after a while.
I can take it to the Temple of the One and light the dragon fires and stop the Oblivion invasion.
Would you say part of you dies when you have children? Only like the bad part. I mean, things change when you have kids. I'm more productive with kids than I was without kids. I'm happier with kids than I was without kids. I'm a better moral person with kids than without kids. I'm closer to my wife with kids than without kids. I don't want to get too personal, but like, time in the bedroom's better with kids than without. I know it sounds weird, but like, I don't know, it's better. Everything's better. Now, that's not to say that there's no downsides, right? It'd be nice to be able to sit around and play video games more. It'd be nice to have more adult time. I don't have a lot of adult time. But because my time is so focused on kids, the time that I have remaining, I get to be hyper-focused with and just be more productive on less time. I do almost everything you see on like 2 hours of work a day, if that, and even less lately. I'm just really focused on what I need to do to get it done, get the work out, get the books done, and I enjoy it a lot. It's you do have to let some things go because it's a zero-sum game. So if you want to keep your house super tidy with kids who are going to mess it up, then you're going to have to let something else go. It's all a balancing act. I talk about this in the book, The Keys to Prolific Creativity. Something you got to let something go. You know, you can't keep all the same hobbies you had before you had kids. You have to let some of them go. But the things that I've let go, I realized weren't nearly as meaningful or significant as the kids really are. You know, playing Magic the Gathering, like, who cares?
The Emperor.
Right? Playing World of Warcraft, who really cares, man?
Used to.
That doesn't matter.
In any case, we need the amulet first. Maybe Joffrey will know.
This is so funny that we've got this guy just like standing here.
Something has changed to make these stable portals to Oblivion possible. Joffrey believes that the
A
death of
YouTuber
the
did a video of him showing the
dark
Lord of the Rings movie to his
dragon
mother and
fires is the
sister.
key.
His sister kept going on about how cute Gollum is. Oh boy.
All practitioners of Daedric magic are familiar with the almost impenetrable barrier between our world and oblivion. What the Emperor told you implies that the amulet is the key to the preservation of that barrier. What I saw at Kavach.
I bought the Indiana Jones
everything
collection on
I know
Blu-ray.
about
The only
Daedric
drawback
magic
is it came
says
with
that
Crystal
such
Skull.
stable portals are impossible.
You can always throw that one
Those
away.
gates to oblivion existed. The old rule
I can't believe they're making a fifth
applied.
one with like an 80-year-old Harrison
Is
Ford.
only the beginning of what Mehrunes Dagon.
Shouldn't he have already graduated to like
If
playing
the amulet is
playing
truly
a
the
wizard
key to
in
restoring
some
the barriers
fantasy
between
movie
our
by now?
world and oblivion, you must waste no time in recovering it. I haven't always been a priest. In my youth,
I followed a
followed
different
a
path.
different path. I know more than I want to about the seductive power of Daedric magic. Let's just leave it at that.
Play Civ 6. I haven't paid attention to Civilization since Civ. I didn't like Civilization 5.
Don't worry about me, my
Good morning,
friend.
sir.
I know.
I think Civ 4 was the last one I liked. So I didn't play Civ 6 at all.
You have proven yourself a loyal servant of the Empire, as worthy as any of the blades to stand by Martin's
Birth rates in the
side
U.S. are
during
at a
this
low.
crisis.
Do you think people want
As the
to avoid
Grand Master of the
responsibility?
Blades, I would be
I've
honored
I've
to
talked
accept
about
you
this.
into our
It's a
order.
bunch of things that combine
join
that
us?
convince people they shouldn't have kids. There's basic incentives. You put them super in debt, and of course, if you're financially desperate, you're not going to feel like you want to have children if you can avoid it. Of course, the hype up contraception, so people are routinely just always thinking about avoiding children. You separate men and women from each other so that they get married later and have fewer children. I'm part of that. I didn't get married till I was over 30. I think it was 31 or just shy of 31 when I got married. And, I was 32 by the time my first son happened. We got pregnant the first year we were married, but he was born after my birthday. Just that's how it happens, man. Bunch of things. You constantly get messaging. Like someone's like, "This, I've heard part of you dies when you have kids." Like, what? No. Any part of you that dies is the unvirtuous part. You have to grow to be an adult, to take care of children. You have to be better.
It is my honor to welcome you into our ranks as a Knight Brother of the Blades.
Yeah, see, I played Civ 5 on release. I didn't play the expansions, but I'll take your word that it was good. I might go back and play it at some other point. I've been playing through the Call of Cthulhu and just beat the Shambler. That guy was a dick. Cool boss fight, but the guessing game with the daggers was a bit... I haven't played it, so...
This...
All right.
May your sword always strike true.
All right. Now, he gave me a katana. Let's see if it's any good. I think it's better than what I got. I think if I repair this might be just as good, though. My Dwarven Longsword is still better than my Akaviri Katana. Too bad.
It is good to be back here. The Daedra, he was...
Alright.
This fortress is well... You're right. We must try to recover the amulet
funny,
before
glitchy.
the enemy takes it out of our reach. You should go back to the Imperial City. Boris may have learned something about the assassins. You'll find Boris at Luther Broad's boarding house.
The
in
most
the
dramatic
Elven
kid
Gardens
thing I've heard is that
district
they
of the
destroy you.
Imperial
That
City.
sounds like somebody who was bitter about other things. If your life doesn't turn out the way you want, then you get angry at something else. It's like people who cheat on their spouse because they don't like their job. It seems weird, but people do it all the time. They're like, there's something wrong with my life, I need more fulfillment, and they go out and they cheat. And they're looking, what are they doing? They're looking to have that fulfillment somewhere. They're like, what will give me this fulfillment? So when they don't have fulfillment, they look at like, well, why don't I have it? It must be that I have kids and I'm not having a fulfilling career. Well, I got news for you. The people who think they have a fulfilling career, they miss having kids. They really do. I see it over and over again. The problem is once you get to be 50 and you've spent your entire life being a strong, independent woman who don't need no man, and you don't have kids, then you realize that like your career didn't mean anything. You can't go back and have them afterwards.
Have you been to talk to Boris in the Imperial City yet? What is it? One of the youngest... I am glad to hear that he survived.
All right.
Stay safe.
I think I could talk to Martin
Good
and he
afternoon.
gives me some.
What can I do? If you
I think he gives me
keep your
some
heart true and your
quest here to go find a Daedric artifact. I think he actually tells you where like the Azura star is. I don't remember exactly. Is he in here yet? Barragan.
Sorry, but I'm too busy.
Where's Martin?
Yes?
I might have to come back later. He's usually sitting right here. Don't remember. Well, there's a lot of fear-mongering about overpopulation. I think the same is true about low birth rates. People forget that 1930s birth rates were almost as low as today's. Well, here's the other thing about birth rates. That's a great point, Hardwick. So, the population's going down. We better import immigrants. No, if the population goes down, that means property values get cheaper. There's a bunch of things that happen that people who are, could be bad for people, but aren't necessarily bad for the kids. Like a decreasing population is not necessarily bad for the generation which is enriched by it. And then when they get richer, they're like, we could buy a huge house very cheaply. Let's have 8 kids, and then the birth rate goes back up. That's how it is. People in small spaces, like in cities, they have fewer children. If you got to the country, people have more kids because they just feel like they have more room for them in their time, in their life, in everything they do. So,
This whole business of being heir to the throne will take some getting used to. Please bear with me.
but I don't think people should be afraid of having kids. If you feel that kids are something that should be in your life, they definitely can be. You can definitely arrange your life to have kids in them without losing your soul or losing your ability to create, work on your creative projects or something. I come out with like multiple books a year and I feel like I have no time. And I take care of my kids all the time, but that's just what I could focus on. I don't have no time for anything. I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. Let's see here. All right, let's go there. I'm going to kill Thalion. That's all after you infiltrate the Mythic Dawn. Martin doesn't know about what to do yet, so he won't bring up the Daedric bits. Okay, that's right. He's studying still.
Can I help you, citizen?
I like this statue. The Imperial City always felt like such a more real place to me than anywhere in Skyrim. Just like, it seemed like a place I would like to visit. It's like Disneyland.
Shouldn't sneak up on people like that. Huh? What do you want? Sorry, can't talk now. I'm with my...
Oh, right, he wants skooma. I think I can lure him with some
Talk to
skooma.
me later. Not here. Not in the hotel. Okay.
Let's see. I have a... I think if I get some skooma.
Hey, stranger, can you spare a few coins? I've just been shaken down by that bastard watchman, and he took my last scepter.
Yeah. Can I give... Take 3. I have plenty to spare.
Blessings of Akatosh upon you. I don't know his name, but I'd recognize him if I saw him again. Lurank and I were shopping at Jensen's when he accused us of stealing. Even Jensen said
I don't think I've ever done this
innocent, but
quest.
He didn't care. We had to pay his
I'm worried about Lego
fine
getting
or go to
converged
jail.
lately. We'll know if they stop shipping Legos with weapons. If they say we're going to not make Legos with weapons anymore, you got a problem. Luckily, there's a bunch of other companies that'll make Lego compatible stuff so you can keep having cool Legos. Like Legos that are tanks and stuff. I'm always worried about that because like Lego's one of the few toy companies that still makes like good toys for boys.
He's shaken down most of the shopkeepers in the market district. They're all too afraid of him to do anything. Jensine wouldn't even talk about it.
I wonder what
Someone
skooma
ought to do
tastes like,
something
yeah.
About him.
Alien.
Some words should be shared only by friend.
We're not friends?
I'm gonna keep a low profile. Have you seen my friend? I'm listening.
He doesn't like me even though I gave him money. Alright.
Yeah, I doubt. Don't try. Don't, please. I'm sorry. No more. Yeah, I doubt. Don't talk such rot. I doubt. Don't try. I accept. I see. Damn watchman.
And charming.
Have you seen my Phalion, you said?
There we go.
Why, yes, I know who he is. Rather distasteful fellow, actually. I believe he lives right here at the Tiber Septim Hotel. Talk to the publican, Augusta Calidia. I'm sure she can tell you more about him. Take my advice.
Okay.
Stay away from the watchman.
Oh, yes, good Phalion? He...
Oh, no.
He's my
This is his
sweet
girlfriend, but she's worried about him.
But I don't know why I'm telling this to you. I mean, we hardly know each other and all.
Pretty entrenched in the third-party market, it's extensive, but if the base Lego product gets crappy, the aftermarket prices will go way up. That's true.
We'll see.
I still have all my Legos from when I was a kid, so...
That's... No.
I still have like all my
I
old
doubt-
castles and space Legos. Got a lot of good ones.
No. What a... Sure, that's cute.
Oh, and it's happy. Angry. Okay, yeah, that's... I'm doing this one backwards. Oop, boop,
Yeah.
boop,
What
boop. There we go.
Blow away, windbag. Goodness. What a...
There we go.
Good one. No. I doubt it. Sure,
There
that's
we go.
cute.
Now we're getting it done.
That's really... Don't... I doubt it. Good job.
Charm!
Yes, good sir.
You ever plan to make an analysis
How
of
may I
Joker?
help?
If I eventually see it.
Please, I don't mean to get emotional, but...
I don't have a lot of time to
I can
watch
trust
movies,
you.
and movies, if I have time, they're just never what I choose. I'd rather read a book or play a game. Those are the two things I really like.
All he
Movies
cares
are...
about is skooma.
And it's nothing against
He was a
movies. Like,
fine
sometimes I
young
like to
man
watch them, but
once.
these
He's
days I
lost
just don't watch
everything.
as many as I used to.
His looks, his money, his self-respect. I followed him a few times to see where he goes. He walks around the city looking for skooma. And then he goes to Lorkmir's house for several hours. It's in the Elfin Gardens district. I think the house is deserted. That's why he goes there. So he can escape from life and do his skooma. Thank you for listening.
There's only a few really weird, obscure
You're a
pieces of
good
arms and
friend.
armor not made on the customs market
I just
nowadays.
hope my sweet Phalion
World War
can
II Swiss
clean
helmets,
himself
for
up, or
example.
that awful skooma will be the death.
I think you can get a 3D printer and 3D print a lot of Lego stuff too, though.
Goodbye.
Like, I kind of wanted to get a 3D printer just to make, like, custom Lego stuff.
Welcome, friend, to the Tiber Septim Hotel. I am Augusta Aledia, your hostess. Phalion? Oh, I know him all right. A waste of life, that one. He lives here, you know, with his sweetheart, a trainer. What that poor girl sees in him, I'll never know. A trainer pays for their room, their food, everything. She's
What do you
quite
think of
wealthy,
Capcom's
I believe.
RPG Dragon's Dogma? I haven't played it.
Phalion
Everyone's
used to
saying I
have
need to
money.
play it, so
Used to be quite
maybe
a
I'll start doing that
gentleman,
on
too.
stream, because that
But
seems
that
to
was
be the
before he
demand.
took a fancy to the, you know, the
skooma.
skooma. Now Phalion's hardly ever here. He's off using skooma or wandering the city looking for some, I
I
imagine.
kind of feel bad killing this
He
skooma
comes
addict.
back every night to be with a trainer. But only for a few hours, I swear. That high elf is going to wind up dead if he keeps living like this. Can I interest you in some of my wares? Farewell.
Well met. Have you seen my friend? Take my advice. Stay away from the watchman.
Yeah, I think I can find Phalion's house or find the house that's missing there, and then I can just wait for him in there and kill him when he shows up to do some skooma. I think you can also, like, tell him that you have skooma. I think there's a way to do that. I'm not 100% though. Trying to see if maybe like one of these rooms, like you can break into it and get some skooma. Maybe not though. We'll just go kill him in the skooma den. And then you can talk to her and she gets really upset that he's dead.
Ugly little animals.
Dear family.
Well, at least...
Alright, where is it? Over here.
May children will... Thank you. Blessings of our...
Let's see if we can find this abandoned house. Lorkmir's house. I'm not trespassing when I open it. That's what's funny. I think I could pickpocket the key off of Thalion, but I didn't do that. So we'll just pick the lock. I think I might be high enough level to get the unbreakable lockpick. The skeleton key. I actually enjoy Dragon's Dogma more than Skyrim. You should play it and find it of use. Yeah. Alright. Is he upstairs maybe? It's abandoned. You can rest in the bed. Bone meal. Something done died in here. Apparently all this is owned though, because I'm stealing. It's hard to find good stuff to steal sometimes in this game. Let's go down to the basement. What are your thoughts on Shakespeare's sonnets? I don't really have any thoughts on them. I've read them. I guess I... Oh, here's Lorkmir. He's dead. Poor dude is dead. I do like in Skyrim you can get that ring that lets you eat the dead. Let you eat the bodies of the dead. I think that's pretty cool. Ah. Bet you there's nothing of value in this chest either. There's never anything of any value in these chests. Look at that. Garbage. Pure garbage. And there was root pulp in there. One thing that's kind of cool is if you don't want to have to sell stuff to fences, you can steal like this fruit and just turn it into potions, and then the potions aren't stolen. These pumpkins. Making pumpkin and watermelon. The potion is still... How heavy are these potions? Here's a 5-pound potion. 5-pound potion, guys. Alright, let's wait for this guy. And wait about 6 hours. See what happens. One cancerous thing I've noticed on Vox Day's Social Galactic is a segment of the Christians are always rooting around for someone to accuse of being a Satanist plant. It's annoying. Yeah, I could see that being annoying. Let's maybe wait another 2 more hours. Brewing potions is money laundering in this game. Does he show up? Maybe he goes in the basement? Nope. When is this guy gonna show up here? Where are you, dude? Wait another 3 hours? At 5 pounds, it makes the fatigue. Is he here? Let's see here. I wonder if I have an open average lock spell. I might. Hold on. Should use that. Nope, just easy locks. Get that open average lock. Oh. There's nothing in value in here. I don't know why I'm bothering. That's the thing about Oblivion is most of the chests are full of garbage, see? Ugh. It's frustrating. Okay. Oh. Zuzano asked for a recommendation of which of your books would be the best to start with. About 10 or 15 comments up. You know, it really depends what genre you like, you know? So, I mean, you can get at least one of them free on the mailing list. I think Water of Awakening comes out like a week after you've done it. Oh, he's here. There he is.
Hey, what are you doing here? You're not my friend.
So,
what?
It just depends what you want.
What do you
I have horror, I have sci-fi, I got fantasy. If you're looking for fantasy, I'd probably start with Water of Awakening or Crown of Sight.
Sleep? But nah. No, I'm not tired. Not tired right now.
Strange that after all these years, there's still no force open lock option. Yeah. If you want sci-fi, I don't know. Voices of the Void is good. But that's good for horror too. Well, Baleen is dead. I killed him in Lorkmir's house, a secure location with no witnesses. See if he's got anything here. Now, just to like sweeten this, I'm gonna go back to this Tiber Septim Hotel real quick. I'm such a vampire. And you talk to his girlfriend and she's all sad about it. So, yeah, I mean, actually, you know, it's a good one to start with too is City of Silver, because I'm going to come out with the sequel in a couple weeks. I still haven't really announced that formally, but yeah, so it's called Tyrant's Gallow. It will be out in June, and I will hype that up a little bit more soon, maybe now. Might have already seen the cover design for it, which is that guy and that girl on like the shore. Here she is.
Yes, good sir. Please, Oh,
she doesn't know he's dead yet. Okay.
Bye.
All right, never mind. I thought she had some kind of thing like, my poor Phalian is dead. Maybe not.
Oh. Hello.
Marie, my drugged boyfriend's dead. Yeah, I gotta wait for 8 hours. Just letting folks concerned know that I'm nowhere near the rioting in Minneapolis. Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that, Brad. I wasn't aware there was rioting in Minneapolis because I haven't paid that much attention. I think I did that trending Twitter video like way before that happened. All right, let's go back and get the reward, and then I'm probably going to call it here. It's a good stream. And we can have more fun next time. Maybe play Dragon's Dogma. I think I have it. I think it's in my Steam list. Wonder what reward I'm going to get. Love that music. Yeah, City of Silver's good. It's only 99 cents, so that's a good price. It's very quick and easy to read through it. It's like 40,000 words maybe, so it's fairly on. It's on the shorter side. New one's going to be about 60,000, so it's going to be a little bit longer, a little bit more stuff going on. New one is pirates, prison breaks, stuff like that. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the second one.
You come speak with me, yet you do not bear.
Oh yeah, I have to go kill Scartail. Yeah.
May you walk always in the shadow.
Where's Ochiva? Not in here. Maybe in her room. You know what? The compass is probably pointing to her, and I could pay attention to that.
The high elf Thalia
Oh, I got a bow.
Swims in the maelstrom of darkness at the feet of our dread father, Sithis, and there were no witnesses to your handiwork.
One of Vox's blog posts today discussed
Because
it.
of the
Big diversity
discretion you
party in
exercise,
progress.
Captain Philida will not
Scandicuck
suspect
town
the Dark
northeast of it, very
Brotherhood was
jealous.
involved and will not meddle in our affairs. Here is your reward and bonus. Both have been well earned. Go now. and
James says he
rest,
really enjoys
and
Water
may
of
the
Awakening.
Night
Yeah,
Mother
I'm so
guard
glad you
your
liked it.
dreams.
I had a lot of fun writing it. I wrote it at this point 3 years ago, which is wild. It didn't feel like 3 years ago. It feels like 2 seconds ago. You know? What's this cool bow I got? Shadow Hunt. Pretty sweet.
I have another contract when you're ready. One that will rely on your ability to remain fully undetected.
What's with all the talking velociraptors in this game? That's just one of the races. Dinosaur races.
I see you have been speaking with Tanava. What he says is true. All our lives we have lived together in the shadows. We are eggmates, twins. We were taken at birth and given to the Dark Brotherhood. We returned to Black Marsh as shadow scales, trained in the arts of stealth and murder. Together, we served our nation as spies and assassins, as all shadow scales do. When we came of age, we joined the family as one, and here we are. Far to the west, there lives a fierce warlord and his company of loyal mercenaries. Your target is the warlord. Do you accept this contract?
Yes. Of course
Excellent.
I accept.
Now listen closely. Nestled in the mountains to the west lies Fort Such. It is the home of the warlord Roderick and his mercenaries. Roderick has recently taken ill. He now lies in eternal slumber, kept alive only by the daily administration
this one's
of
cool.
powerful medicine.
I like this quest.
You must infiltrate Fort Such.
I really felt like the
find
stealth was better
Roderick's
in this game
medicine,
than others.
And replace it with a poisoned bottle I will provide. But you must
What story
remain
expands on Crown of Sight?
undetected.
Next Eternal Dream book
Whomever
will
arranged this
utilize stuff
contract
from it.
Wants it to look like Roderick died from his
And then there'll be
illness.
another
So
Eternal Dream
discretion
Legends
is
that'll just be
essential.
another short story like
Attack
that.
No one.
Novella.
Be seen by no one. If you are detected, the poisoning will fail, and Roderick must be killed in some other manner. That will, of course, forfeit your bonus.
Okay, I like that. All right, so $10 from Determined Cheapy. I really appreciate the $10, first of all. Thank you. Next, I will say how to get any recommendations on how to help friends get into reading indie books. So one of the things you can do is just, if it's a book you liked and read, give it to them. And I find physical books, if people are really into like the standard publication thing, if they're really into buying books at the bookstore and they just don't really think about indie fiction, if you hand them a physical copy of a book, then I think they're a lot more likely to buy it. So sequel to this will be out in a couple weeks. So make sure you're on my mailing list because I do need to make some formal announcements of it. Let me see if I can find I've already showed I've already showed the cover, but I'll show it again right now. So yeah, if you have a physical copy of a book, then just give it to them and say, here's a book, you should read this and check it out. Oh, I found this fantasy book, and here it is, and just kind of sell it like that, and it probably will work really good. That's probably the best thing there. The main thing is that you can't. Certain people are just never going to be interested in stuff outside of their little fandom circle. So if they're only interested in Star Wars, they might never actually be interested in anything that isn't Star Wars. And that's just the way things are sometimes. They just may never actually be interested in it. Nothing you can do at that point. But if you can have a physical copy to give them, that usually helps. So here's here's part 2. Here's that cover. So that one will be out in June. I think a little bit after my birthday. So June. When do I have it set up right now? June 16th, I think. June 16th. I think that's the first day of summer. So you can check that one out. And I think it's $2.99 for the ebook. The paperback will be somewhere around the same price, like $7.99 or something. It'll be a little bit thicker than this. It'll be around the same size as Prophet of the Godseed. So it'll be a little bit thicker book, a little bit bigger book. So that's an easy way, I think, to get people in. Is if you have a physical book, then it's something they hold in their hands and it's real to them rather than sending them an ebook or something like that. And then they can just follow up on whatever they like from there. What do you think of Loom, the old LucasArts game? I haven't played it in forever. There were no bonuses in Skyrim either, but weirdly enough, the guy who wrote Dark Brotherhood got promoted to main writer in Fallout 4. One-hit wonders, man. You're knowledgeable. Do you know what the 7-pointed star is associated with? I was thinking of using it as a sci-fi good guy symbol, but I don't want it. It's a sinister mark. I've seen black metal bands use it. I really don't know because it's probably some esoteric symbol for some people, but I don't know. I don't really know what it means because I don't get too deep into that kind of stuff. You have to treat brand fans like they're in a cult because they are. They'll come out once they're able to accept the cult and not able to accept the cult any longer. Then you come to them. How many people are there that only like one thing? I know of people who like only Star Wars and not Trek and not Wars, but they usually like other things like Marvel or DC. I don't know. It's people that are just really into their corporate brand. That's just what they're into. They collect Star Wars. They read Star Wars. They just don't. You're not going to sell them indie stuff because they're going to assume it's not as good as Star Wars, even though Star Wars sucks and it's easy to be better than Star Wars at this point. So anyway, guys, I really need to call it here because it's time for me to get the kids to bed. So that is probably what I'm going to say. And Sheriff stars are 7-pointed, but I've seen also 6-pointed stars. I don't know if it means something special. I've seen Star of David for Sheriff stars as well. So anyway, all right, that's it, guys. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to visit dvspress.com for more action. And I'll see you guys next time.